You said the key words, fiscally responsible, taxpayers' money in this kind of environment. You know what's happening in CBC Radio Canada also. It's been a tough year.
I just love that. Hubie Lacroix, Hubie, only a judge can tell me what to release Lacroix, talking about fiscal responsibility while being interviewed by Heather Hiscox in London, England. CBC appears to be spending millions of your dollars to cruise to London to cover the Olympic Games. They don't even have the broadcast rights. They're cutting elsewhere, but it's okay. They can all go and party in London, and Hubie can talk about fiscal responsibility. Absolutely unbelievable. Now, of course, the world's eyes are on London right now because they're hosting the Olympics. Now, hosting the Olympics theoretically could boost Britain's tourism fortunes. It could be good for the country's morale. But is it worth the cost? That's a question that Patrick Basham is asking. In a piece today for the Daily Caller, Basham appears to say the answer is no. He joins us right now from our studios in Washington. Patrick, thanks for coming in. This is normally an argument that's put forward by poverty activists who don't want Toronto to bid for the Games. They always come up with saying it costs too much. You've looked at it from a different point of view and come to the same conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see even poverty activists are correct from time to time. It's, you know, miracles do happen. If you look at this economically, it's an absolute slam dunk in the opposite direction of what the conventional wisdom tells us. We're told it's all about boosting tourism, and lots of jobs are made from all the construction, and most importantly, that there's this huge Olympic legacy. So in the years following the Games, the host city gains tremendously from this new money that is going to appear out of somewhere. But if you look at each one of the modern-day Olympics, going back to Munich in 1972, and I've been masochistic enough to do this, you'll find that there are very few, if any, exceptions to the rule that the host city and the event itself loses money and there isn't an economic gain to the host city and to the country in which the Olympic Games are held.
Well, you looked primarily at the Summer Games, and of course that got people here saying, well, the Winter Games in Vancouver were a success. So I looked up some numbers, and I don't even think these are complete, but it appears that the Vancouver Organizing Committee spent $1.7 billion. That doesn't include $925 million spent by the province and $1 billion by the feds. They still claim they broke even. There's $1.9 billion that the taxpayer had to shell out for the very small games. But here's the figures from your article this morning. $38.5 billion for the London Games, $40.1 billion for the Beijing Games, $6.1 for Athens, $2.7 billion for the Big O, and $687 million for Munich. All of those went over budget, didn't they?
They all did. I mean, the Athens Games in 2004 was 10 times over the original projection. These London 2012 Games is at least 8, if not 8.5 times the cost that was originally forecast just in 2004. Beijing Games were several times over the original budget the Chinese government put forward. And that's the legacy. That's the true legacy of these games. Ballooning budgets and debt burdens that are paid eventually by the taxpayers. Montreal taxpayers, they were paying for the 76 Summer Olympics for the best part of 30 years. And the British taxpayer
I was still living in Montreal in 2000 to 2002 when they finally announced that the cigarette tax they'd put on more than 30 years, or about 30 years earlier, had paid off the debt from the 76 Games.
That's right. And see, in recent times, the only two Olympics that have on the books officially put a profit, a small one, are Salt Lake City, the 2002 Winter Olympics, and Atlanta, the 96 Summer Olympics. But in actual fact, neither turned a profit, because what they conveniently ignored and left out of their accounting were the huge sums, billions in the case of Atlanta, that was spent by federal, state, and local governments on various things, most importantly security. So if you cook the books enough, you can show these things show some kind of profit, but they simply do not, in fact. And most importantly, the area in which they are held does not gain economically down the road, which we are told is the reason to have them. Now, personally, I love the Olympics, and I don't think that's the reason you should or should not have them, but that's how they're sold to taxpayers, and therefore I think we should be looking at that bottom line.
Well, let's ask, is it worth it in terms of morale boosting, whether it be for Atlanta or Salt Lake City or Vancouver or London, to have the games? Does it boost morale? Does it boost morale when we win medals? And is that worth the cost? Because winning medals comes at a huge cost as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's this national psychic income. I don't think it's for me or anyone else to tell a country or a city that they shouldn't do this. What I think is necessary, though, is that the taxpayers in that jurisdiction are given the full facts ahead of time so that they can have some say. You know, if the taxpayers of the UK had been told in 2004, you're going to be on the hook for almost 40 billion Canadian dollars, the equivalent of Canadian dollars, that amount. Do you want to do this because for 2 or 3 weeks you're going to feel better about yourself as a Brit? Now, maybe they would have said, yeah, go for it, we'll spend the money. But today, with Britain in a double-dip recession, high unemployment, I don't think that would have passed any kind of referendum in the UK.
No, I don't think so either. Patrick Basham's with the Democracy Institute. Thanks for joining us today, sir.